as I was starting my business, I didn't know who to talk to or to talk with to say, how do I do this or how to do that? Like, I read books. I did Automobile University. I was on, doing audibles and listening to all these different books. And there's a little bit of a danger in that because you have so many different philosophies. So it's kind of like, to me, you can't follow the keto diet and whatever other diet, they clash with each other. So you have to pick a path and stay on that path. So if you're listening to Susie Orman and you listen to Dave Ramsey, and if you're listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad, like, they all have different philosophies that if you're trying to work all the tactics that they're sharing, you're actually probably not going to get anywhere because it's a path. Like, you either need to be on the path that one person says or another, path, because they don't necessarily jive with each other.
Welcome to another edition of Be Great Podcast, where we always speaking to great people who have done phenomenal things. And today I have a special guest, someone who I've known over the years that has impacted the lives of so many people. And so today, how you doing, Miss Dawn? You doing okay today, man?
Yes, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Miss Dawn, if you don't mind, take a few seconds to introduce yourself to the people and tell them a little about yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Dawn Johnson, Dawn Colors Johnson. And I have been in the Rock Hill community now for about 18 years. And I'm originally from New York, inner city, from the South Bronx of New York. We moved to Orangeburg, South Carolina when I was 13. I attended Orangeburg Wilkinson High School. Okay. And upon graduation, I went to Florida to attend Florida State University. And that's where I got my undergraduate degree in economics and a double minor in African American Studies and psychology. Okay. And I started on my career in Jacksonville, Florida with State Farm Insurance Company, starting out in claims, moved my way up the ranks, helped open the call center in Jacksonville, supervisor manager, then went to our corporate headquarters in Bloomington, Illinois, where I did some project manager work, was operation manager there. And then I decided that, my husband also worked with State Farm and, get to that situation where you have a family. I had my daughter, my parents were aging, and we decided that we wanted to start our own business and in South Carolina, be closer to my parents, and we landed in Rock Hill. So that's how we ended up in Rock Hill. And so my daughter was 2, and now she is 19, about to be 20. And just came here and just dove right in, getting involved in the community. I've always been involved in the community, no matter where I've been, wherever I've lived. So it's kind of in my blood, that was the type of person my mother was and my father. And just grew up around people who just helped other people. So I always saw and modeled that behavior, and just jumped right into some community service initiatives. I think the first 2 organizations I joined was the Central City Optimist Club. Mr. Charles Robinson rolled out the red carpet for me, and I was actually introduced into the Rock Hill community by Andre and Roz Davis. I don't know if you know Andre Davis. He's from here. He's a Sigma. And his wife and I were in Jacksonville, Florida together, worked for the same company. They had been in Bloomington when we arrived to Bloomington, and then they went on somewhere else. But when he found out that I was coming to Rock Hill, he made sure all his friends knew, and I was welcomed with open arms and just dove right in.
Awesome. Well, I didn't know we had so many similarities and so many things. I'm like, wow, it's like I almost reading my same book. And but one of the things I did hear what you said, and that's one of the rare things. Rock Hill is one of the rare places that still have good hospitality.
Yeah.
I love it about that. And so just people welcome you in and just embracing, that's a rare unicorn to have that still in a city. But with that, I kind of want to back up a little about your story. Me too was born in New York.
Yeah.
I was born in Jamaica, Queens. I didn't spend much time there. My mother moved back here in Rock Hill, and we grew up in the Charlotte area. But one thing I did like what you said. Seminoles. For those who hating on them, I used to run with that with Bobby Bowden and all them back in the day. Okay. And so, I'm big on the Seminoles football anyway. That's awesome to hear that you went there, and I'm pretty sure you got some interesting stories and things about that. But I want to kind of dive into your background. You said,
Yeah.
like myself, I grew up in these projects in Charlotte, and I seen when crack hit the scenes, and from there, this is how my parents involved themselves into starting an after school program, and several other things. And so I've seen firsthand this being raised in that environment. How did you, as a youth growing up, how did that play a part in your life?
You know, it's interesting. I always tell people I really feel like I was almost in this bubble. Like, you know, I've had this feeling like God just had a certain path for me. And so, you know, I was seeing the things that were happening, but, you know, I wasn't in the things. You know, had family members who were impacted and saw those things happening. So I often say that sometimes I almost feel like I suffer from survivor's guilt. You know, when you know so many people who were impacted and had a hard time during that time. And I was young when I saw it happening, but I think my thought process was, and what I was encouraged to do, you know, by my parents and all the people in my life was, you know, you have to get to a place first. You know, it's kind of that theory of putting your oxygen on yourself first before you can help anybody else, that I had to get to a place where I could do something for people who needed help. So I think that's what started the empathy, was to see what was happening, kind of feel like, you know that you can't do anything being so young. But I think that drove me to want to achieve certain things, achieve a certain level in life where I could reach back and help those who may have gotten caught up or stuck in some things, you know, within our communities, you know, that I don't know that we had so much control over, and figuring out how do we become more empowered? How do we help each other? How do we navigate, you know, those situations that are sometimes out of our control just because of the nature of how cities and countries operate, you know, get caught in the crossfire for some of those things. Yeah.
So I understand exactly. Like I said, we don't pick and choose some of the things that comes to us, but it's then you have to find out if I'm going to just turn a deaf ear to it, or do I take a stance, and do I involve myself in trying to be an answer. And Absolutely. I think I heard that from Bishop Jake said, what bothers you is what you've been called to help fix.
Yeah.
And so, so I took that, and I'm constantly thinking, how can I play a part? And so even our conversation, how we got here, because we had some things going on in our community, where over the years I've seen you always taking great stands. I look at you as one of our leaders in our community, on so many different levels, to reach back and to empower others.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to go that route, because I see you not only in your business, because I was a client of your business for I think that's where I originally met you for many years, and then from there I seen where, hey, you started being a buzz, where Miss Dawn Johnson's name was popping up. We doing this and that, and I'm like, well, okay, she making some noise. She's doing some great things in our community. And how did that come about? I know you say you was out in the club and you got some of those things started, but then you start elevating to where, hey, let me get more involved to do some other things to help our community in various ways. So if you don't mind, kind of lean towards that a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, and this is all hindsight, right? Because when you're doing the thing, you don't really think about it. You're just doing what comes to you to do. And I know most of it is God inspired. All of it is God inspired. I call it headlight faith. Like, He shows me enough to keep me moving forward. And I just operate in that, and I know that He'll provide me with the time, the talent, the resources to get accomplished whatever He places in my spirit. And I can say, like, from a very young age, like my mom, she she started out she loved to cook, right? And so her way of, she had to work like in food service for a while. And then, her way of making sure that my teachers knew that she was a parent who cared about their child is she would always make the Thanksgiving turkey and dressing for Thanksgiving. And so I remember being passed from grade to grade, and the teachers saying, you may not see her mom all the time, but if you need anything, you just call her and make sure she makes a Thanksgiving turkey. So she found a way to have impact when she knew that she may not have physical presence all the time. And that just kind of stuck in my head, that you just always find a way to have impact, to make people know that you care, whether, your time is lacking, you're stretched. And then she eventually was able to open a restaurant. You know, it was a mom and pop place called Ma's Place in New York. But what I saw was that, you know, she was, it's funny. Number one, I think she was like the original, what do you call it, farm to table, because she always, you know, she was organic before organic was a thing. Like she cooked everything from scratch. She always had fresh produce, fresh, you know, vegetables, meat from, you know, the fish market or the butcher or the chicken place. You know, everything was just organically derived, and it just came from her heritage because that's where she was born in South Carolina in the Orangeburg area, Orangeburg St. Matthews. So she brought that with her. But when she, and you know, she just put on the menu. There were no paper menus. She wrote on the board, you know, what she was fixing that day. And people would call and say, "What's my cooking today?" And then when the food was gone, it was gone. And you would see her outside her place in a chair, and people were coming to her just to talk. You know, I saw when she was chopping up and preparing things that people would just come to the counter just to have conversation with her. So as a young child, I saw people always seeking her guidance and her giving advice and helping to coach and mentor people. So she was not only an inspiration to, you know, her children, but to other children, as well as her nieces and nephews and anyone who would seek her counsel. So that was kind of the first dose of, you know, me seeing what it meant to be a community servant. And then my dad on the flip side, you know, if you needed it and he had it, he gave it to you. You know, my dad was a very simple man. He didn't, you know, he was not, you know, a shopper or anything. Like whatever he wore is what my mother bought him. And if he had it in his pocket and you walked up to him and you needed it, he gave it to you. So I just saw giving of self in every aspect of life. And then there was a lady in our community. Her name was Miss Marion Rose. And she just left a mark on me because I saw her, she had a little bit, maybe more resources, and she had 3 or 4 children, and she paid for them, for instance, to have dance lessons. They were able to go to a dance school and get dance lessons, but she had her kids teach the other kids in the neighborhood, those of us who couldn't afford to go to classes. We would learn what they learned. So just seeing people like that pour into our community. She was over making sure that we had after school programs. She was, you know, on school board advocating for the children in that community. And we saw her like fiercely advocating for the needs of kids. And she was in the community. So it wasn't just that she had this office and was untouchable. She was in the community doing the things and serving and advocating. She ran for the council and just was all involved. So I think those are all the little seeds that were planted in me as a little girl that you just don't realize how they're going to manifest themselves in your life. So I just, when I graduated from college, I was placed in charge of youth ministry. So I, you know, always had a passion for young people and children and was able to organize various programs within that youth ministry. When I started with the company, I was on a United Way fund distribution committee. What that did was it gave me the opportunity to evaluate all the companies, all the organizations that companies gave money to and United Way gave money to. So I got to see how nonprofit organizations operated. The company also had a public affairs department, and I always volunteered for whatever the company was doing within the community. I was always a part of that. So it was just a lot of nurturing and grooming in a variety of ways that led to, I think, when I said, okay, once I have my own business, I already knew how to be an advocate. So I just got to get to know the community. I was asked to be a part of the Rock Hill School District Foundation. So that was another way that I learned, and just was phenomenal to see that organization. You know, we were excited if we raised $25,000, and now I see them like raising, I don't know, $500,000 to $1 million. So to be a part of the foundational organizations and be a part of creating the structure and the advocacy that leads to them doing such great work. I was on a museum board, learned how that operated. And then I think the biggest impact on me was that when I became a part of the Rock Hill Economic Development Corporation. And I was a part of that for about 10 years. And I was able to see how they operated in terms of developing businesses, spaces where manufacturing companies came. I was a part of the Knowledge Park Action Plan Committee to watch how that evolved to developing what we see downtown right now in terms of the sports and event center and all of that. And even how you have to bob and weave when things don't work out, because that was initially supposed to be an area that was bringing in knowledge-based businesses, because the goal was to have businesses that would employ people who were underemployed or not making a livable wage and have them higher paying jobs. That didn't pan out exactly the way that they wanted it to. So it kind of shifted to being more of a sports area, and bringing in tourists and into infusing money into the city's economy. So just being able to watch, see, network with people, see how those things happen, then dovetailed into, when Knowledge Park Action Plan was being introduced to the community, I noticed that there were some people that just weren't really excited about it. So I started to ask questions like, why aren't you excited about this, great development in the community? And they just didn't see themselves being a part. It's like, how's it going to impact me? So I just started asking questions and brainstorming, okay, how do we become more inclusive in this space? And some things that took place there led to Bell being created, the Black Economic Leadership League, to make sure that Black people, who represented 38% of this population, felt included in the development and the work that was being done by the city, Rock Hill Economic Development, and all other entities. So everything just evolved, over time, and that led to me being named the chair of Rock Hill Economic Development Corporation, which then led to my being a part of the Clean Connection Action Plan, to have a similar plan that was developed for Knowledge Park Action Plan to be then developed for the south side of Rock Hill. So it was just an evolution.
Wow. Well, the main thing I got from that is keep your hands close to the fire, right?
Yeah, and just keep going, right? Take every experience and let it leverage you into another experience.
One thing I did not hear you say was you were in pursuit of, just for a personal gain.
Right.
A lot of times we want to, sometimes what type of pay is it? It's something like that. And sometimes we'll miss the bigger picture when we put our own reasoning in that. And so I love the fact that you did it for the how can I give and how can I serve my community. And by doing that, it increased in larger territory to now you're doing some things on you're able to do things on a larger scale and able to impact our community greatly. And so now that you had started Bell, you've also done some things you said with the Clean Connection. Kind of explain that a little bit for those who don't know a little bit more about what those things are.
Yeah, so I think part of it too. So want to back up and just say that I had been in my industry for 15 years, and was very well versed in my industry. Did not realize that didn't necessarily translate into knowing how to run a business. Like, what I figured out is you can be the best cupcake maker in the world and have the best tasting cupcakes, but if you don't know how to run a business, your business will fail. So really had to, go to the School of Hard Knocks to figure that out. And through that process, I was just like, okay, like, the country was founded on business owners. It really shouldn't be this hard. So that kind of always was in my spirit. Like, we have to make the process of being a successful business owner a little bit easier, a little more accessible. So then, when Knowledge Park Action Plan was happening and having conversations with, people who were part of that process, they pulled together a group of people to talk about inclusivity. And when we had that conversation, those of us who were in that room said, you know what, let's continue this conversation. And when we continued the conversation and began to meet, we co-founded together Bell, the Black Economic Leadership League. And that was an organization. Typically, when you start an organization, you already want to know what your mission and your purpose is. We really were just like-minded people who got thrown in a room together and decided to start something based on a current need. So that's not typically how you would start an organization. I don't know if I would even recommend starting an organization that way, but it served a purpose at the time. So that's where, different people came on and off based on the direction that we decided to go and what they felt that they can lend to the experience at the time. So that's how Bell basically evolved. It was really a matter of listening to the community, finding out what their needs were, listening to the city of Rock Hill Economic Development, figuring out what their mission was and trying to align it to. Like, how do we make sure that as the city formulates its goals, as economic development formulates their goals, how do we make sure that they're aware of the needs of African American community, try to be a resource, but also listen to that community and say what their needs are, what their deficits are, and we tried to fill that gap. So, and then, people were drawn to it based on what we were doing at the time. So, when we had the Workforce Development Initiative, we had certain people that came together that wanted to be a part of that. When we did the Bell Prize Initiative, we had people come who wanted to be a part of that. So it was really just a drawing of people's skills and talents as we rolled out initiatives. And that's really how we continue to operate Bell. In terms of, you mentioned not going in for personal gain. When I was able to start the agency, I really didn't know exactly all the ins and outs of running a business. And I ran into a situation where I had a financial need to start the business that I didn't anticipate. So it's kind of like, Lord, I really don't know how this is going to happen. And, so I had to, raise the coffers to make it happen. And I just said, Lord, if you just help me, do this. I would use it as a platform to serve the community. So what I do and how I do it really, I feel is my response back to the Lord blessing the business. So I've just always looked at it. If I continue to serve the community and honor that He will continue to bless my business. And He has.
Well, I do want to commend you because those who work with you, whenever you have events, those who labor with you, a lot of times they're serving and impacting the community also. So I commend you. A lot of young adults who play a major part into get their hands involved in the community also. And that's great to see that you're mentoring and making ways where others can get involved also.
Exactly, and that's a goal. I don't. People who come to the agency, it isn't always because, I want to be in insurance. Like, nobody goes to school and says, I want to be an insurance agent. I didn't either. It's usually just opportunity. So a lot of times when people even come into the agency, it's just that they want to be developed in some way. And so getting involved in the business, I try to nurture the skills and the talents they have. And it's for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So, they don't come in, and I don't expect necessarily they are going to stay there forever, but I think that they come in knowing my spirit, knowing what my goals are, and they develop themselves, and I hopefully help them develop in a way that they can give back, give to the agency, help us achieve goals, but then they may go on to do other things, and that's served as well as also.
Like what you said, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So that's good to identify that, and then also you don't tie somebody to say you don't have feelings. And I love the fact that my pastor says it like this. He said, some people come in to ministry. That it doesn't mean they're there for a long time. So it's okay to appreciate them coming in and appreciate them going out. So you don't ever hinder someone from blossoming to their fullest potential by trying to mold them the way you want them to be molded.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so with that, I really want to dive into, because you got so many great things going on. This past couple of weeks, you had the WealthCon, and I want you to explain that, but also the background of that, because you got some other things you're doing. As you was talking about, you want to make sure people, for the businesses or the community, understand about finances and all that. So please talk about the overall look.
So I think what I've learned in my business, number one, because really part of deciding to go into agency was because I know my husband and I decided that we didn't want to be, because when you move up the corporate ladder, we recognized quickly that we were going to have to be choosing between each other's jobs, number one, because we both work for the same company. And also it was going to every level up was going to require a move. And, he had aging parents. I had aging parents that were a decade older than his. And we just kind of didn't want to find ourselves all over the place when our parents had needs. So, and that was just a personal decision that we made. And so it's like, well, who's going to do the agency thing? And so I was like, we knew we wanted to move back south. We were in the Midwest for quite a while. We were near his family because my husband's from the Chicago area, and so we had my daughter, and I was trying to decide really what I wanted to do with my life because I was like, the agency thing doesn't work out. I can be a stay-at-home mom. And he's like, oh, with all that energy, I don't know that I need you at home, making me do all the things. So he's like, well, try agency, see if it works. If not, and you stay at home and figure out your next phase. And so agency, blossomed and it did well. So I think that from that experience, it was just a matter of trying to understand, what God really had, in store. So, connecting with so many great people that God put in your lives. So always, when the agency did start, it was always for me about, even when I was with the company, I was learning so much about finances. Like my parents were relatively good stewards, but they didn't have a whole lot to steward over, So with the meager income that they had, we were clean and we had clothes and food and shelter. We didn't want for anything, but our wants were very, minimal. And then, my mother always planted in me. She's like, if whatever you see that you want, you need to be around the people who have those things, have those skills, those talents, whatever lifestyle that you want, and learn from them and figure it out. So when I started with the company, I just saw people in a very different financial situation. We were renting, I had a car payment. My husband was already in the process of getting a house before we married. So very quickly, we were in a home, so we didn't spend, much time renting. But you just saw people in a very different financial situation. So I started, they were eating in the break room, so I bring my lunch and eat in the break room too, and learn that that's how they were saving money. They weren't going out and eating out every day for lunch. And then just hearing like, well, how did y'all, get into your home? How's your car paid off? And figuring out that they were having conversations with their parents on a regular basis and were being stewarded into, clear financial management goals. So even before I started the agency, I was like, wow, my parents, were good stewards. I learned a lot. My mother was going to go to heaven with good credit. She was just determined to pay every bill on time. But there was just so much I didn't know and didn't understand. So it was always my thinking, like, how can I get this information I'm learning out to the masses so we can do better financially? So going into the agency, that was also something that was important to me. So I started out, I remember going to every single church in Rock Hill, every single church in Rock Hill, and asking them if I could do a financial program for them, because that was really in my heart. So I have been doing this work for a very long time, and I remember dragging all the materials and setting up everything myself. It was just me, because I just had an office with 2 staff people, and it was me. So really, relying on the churches to have me come and teach those things. And then that just evolved as my office staff grew and social media came on the scene, and, all these other things. What I was doing then just kind of blossomed into something bigger. So in everything that I've done, just meeting with my clients, there was always an underlying theme of not being able to manage finances, or not being able to pay bills, or struggling and not being able to get ahead. So, I just knew that there was always a need. And then even when we did Bell, that was the thing with businesses, like, how do I get the funding? How do I get the finances? Even with people running for office, it was, how do I get money for campaigns and things? So money was like an underlying theme in everything that we needed to do to accomplish things in life. So whether it was home ownership, whether it was just managing money better, having discretionary income, investing, getting to the next level, running for office, trying to start a business, money, managing finances was always the thing. So I just really became a passion of mine for, better, mental health, having your finances in order, for a better physical health, to eat better, to exercise and to really take care of yourself. Your finances need to be in order. To, have businesses, to run for office, your finances need to be in order. So that led me to create a program called the 8 Steps to Financial Empowerment, which I just, try to help people understand that if you're going to really be empowered through every aspect and phase of your life, not just owning a home, not just managing your family, but as you decide when you're going to retire, as you become an aging person, as you take care of your parents, as your kids need to take care of you, as you manage now, like how does wealth or money or assets transfer properly? Because we have lost so much as a people because we don't know how to transfer things to the next generation. Like all of that needed to be taught. So that just really fuels my passion around doing things in that respect. So always knew that United Way has done that kind of work. Always knew that Habitat had done that kind of work. So when we tried to get more laser focused on that aspect of life, just brainstorm. You'll hear one of the videos on social media. Everybody knows how passionate I am, and Josh Bogle was watching the Heart of the Matter. I think it was. It's a documentary by Kevin Hart where he talked about losing money, because he didn't know how to manage money when he made his first, $1 million or however much he made. And that was an issue in our community. So he's like, you got to watch this. And I remember it was like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And he's like, you got to watch this. And I looked it up and watched it. And then we continue to talk about, okay, we need to turn this into something in our community. And then we got with Tadian, and I always joke, add Tadian and stir. And Tadian knows how financial empowerment is so important to me. So we all just got to brainstorming, and WealthCon was born. Tadian and his team came up with the name. Josh has some ideas about how we could, make it fun and engaging for families. And so that's something that we hope that we can really, because another thing that we learned is that everyone's at a different stage. So we wanted to figure out not only how do you teach it to the people who need it, but also how do you get people who have figured it out to share their information and knowledge. One of the things that bugged me a little bit was that as I was starting my business, I didn't know who to talk to or to talk with to say, how do I do this or how to do that? Like, I read books. I did Automobile University. I was on, doing audibles and listening to all these different books. And there's a little bit of a danger in that because you have so many different philosophies. So it's kind of like, to me, you can't follow the keto diet and the, I don't know, whatever other diet, they clash with each other. So you have to pick a path and stay on that path. So if you're listening to Susie Orman and you listening to Dave Ramsey, and if you're listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad, like they all have different philosophies that if you're trying to work all the tactics that they're sharing, you're actually probably not going to get anywhere because it's a path. Like you either need to be on the path that one person says or another, path, because they don't necessarily jive with each other. So I think that's what people get caught up because they're listening to so many different people and not realizing that you got to pick a lane. And it's not a bad or wrong, it's more so understanding what aligns with who you are as a person. And just like I like to say, what's the best diet out there? It's the one you're going to stick to. So you stick with the plan that you and your lifestyle and your mentality can align with and stick to, because nothing's going to happen overnight. So you got to be able to stick to something and work it until you see the results.
Man, that is really good. Because I'm thinking, because I just had that conversation with somebody that they teaches a Dave Ramsey method. I've gone through the course also. And different between like Robert Kiyosaki talks about good dad versus bad dad. But someone who sticks to Dave Ramsey, he's gonna tell you no credit cards, and that's just like credit cards is the devil.
Right.
But then you got Robert Kiyosaki talk about, hey, how you can use that and to benefit you. And so sometimes if you hear one and hear the other, and you're trying to mix it like gumbo, you're gonna find yourself in a round circle, not understanding, hey, doesn't mean this was right, this was wrong, but whatever situation worked for you, stick to it. And so that I agree 100%. I'm glad you shared that because Now, if you can, how can someone, if they would like to either find out more about those particular programs, how do you have things set up for someone to connect to get more information about what you're doing with the 8 step? I think you said.
Yeah. So actually, I'm working on a book that will
Okay.
come out shortly this year. So you can get the book and work the book, and the book comes with free one-on-one sessions with me to help people go through it. I also, with my church, which is a Greater Work Center, they have embraced doing the 8 steps program. So every month we go through a step. So people can engage in that at any point. Like, even though we just finished step 4, step 5 will be in August, and we do this the third Saturday of every month, and it's open to everyone. So if you engage in that, you will get the book, as well as the free one-on-one sessions, as well as the recordings from any previous sessions that we've had. So that's one way. And you can sign up either on a greaterworkcenter.com, or you can go to my website, justdawnjohnson.com, and it's called Financial Favor, and you can sign up there. But you can also, if you just want to go through the 8 steps one-on-one with me, you can go to my website as well, justdawnjohnson.com, and I can take you one-on-one through the 8 steps. And I'm open to coming to other churches, any organization, other venues, to take people through the 8 steps, because I also think we need community, we need accountability, we need to be sharing stories, we need to know that we're not alone, we need to know that we haven't done anything wrong, that we are just in a situation as a culture where certain things have happened in this society that we have lacked knowledge, and resources have been kept away from us. But now that that's out there, we need to, with no shame, grasp onto those things and grab hold to people who are willing to help us. But we also need to know that we still are the ones in control of what needs to happen, because, again, lots of different people, lots of different philosophies. So if you're just kind of running all over the place, listening to a lot of different people, and I don't prescribe to any one way of doing things. I really try to get people in touch with, who are you and what are you trying to do? And these are some options for you to consider. Try them. I've read just about everything out there. So I can say, this is what this is saying, this is what this is saying, this is what this is saying. What sounds good to you? What do you think you can stick to? So I don't try to tell people what to do. I just try to help them navigate all the information that is out there, but letting them know that you need to take this step. You need to budget. You need to know what's coming in, what's coming out. Like, before you try to do all the other things, it starts there. And so no matter what budgeting tool, app, program, who you use, it doesn't matter. I just need you to stick to something, and I'm here to hold you accountable. And I'm here to answer questions, and I'm here to direct you to other resources. So I'm really just kind of consider myself a navigator and an accountability partner to help you keep taking the steps. Because once you take every step, you will be financially empowered. You will be able to affect your children and your siblings and your parents and all the people in your life. Because they'll see you start to have your act together, and they'll be like, okay, what you doing? And they're going to want to do it too. So yeah, that's just my mission for now. I want to teach other people, because, at the end of the day, it has been a long journey. And I kind of look at my life as like in 3 sets of 18. So the first 18 years of my life, I was just a sponge, absorbing all the information being poured into by, all my mentors in life and family and people in school. And then the second 18 years of life was the doing and the figuring it out and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. And I feel like the last 18 has been about like implementation, like trying to help people navigate through these things. So for me, I'm in a phase right now where I just want to teach and pass the baton. So that's why I'm doing the books, because I want to put everything in the book and say, go forth and conquer. Like, I want to empower other people to do the same thing, to do the same work. Because to be honest with you, I just don't want to be that. I don't want to be Joe Biden is awesome. And he did for what he wanted to do for, what he could do and the best that he could do for a very long time. But I personally, not knocking anyone else who chooses to, I don't want to be doing this like when I'm 80 and failing in health, my memory's failing. I want to be a cheerleader. I want to train, develop, encourage, put all my knowledge in a book, give it to other people, and help them carry on. And them be able to do it with me just being a resource to ask questions. I don't have to be doing the things. I don't have to be leading anything. Like, I'm just in that phase of life where I just want to help, train, mentor, and, sit on the porch in the rocking chair or travel or, watch my daughter, enter into her phase of life. And if she chooses to have kids or whatever, I just want to be a cheerleader of young people at this point. I'm going to give them space to grow.
Well, that's amazing. Like I said, I think, life has 3 phases. You got the learning, doing, and then you got the reaping. And so you want to transition and not stand one season too long. You want a bit of benefit in the next season of life. And with that, I kind of want to switch gears, and I'll respect your time. But I know you're in the insurance space. And so we have recently had a devastation in our area back on April the 20th. You have played a major part on helping a lot of families. You, along with other agencies such as Habitat and other agencies, United Way, and in the city as well. And so, if you can, I know you were very much involved in educating people through this process. And so, for me, and a lot of others, this is a learning experience. And so, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of share. Now, some people still dealing with the devastation of it, still haven't got the help that they need. Some people don't have insurance, whatever. But if you can't speak to it, because I want people to still win in spite of what they're facing. So just kind of share from your expertise a little bit about it.
So April 20th was just an unfortunate learning experience, I think, for a lot of people. Again, there was a lot of philosophies out there about how to manage insurance, and I get that people are trying to make insurance affordable. So to me, it's just about seeking good counsel on your individual situation. I learned that there was obviously this mentality of, as soon as you pay off your car, you can drop comp and collision. And a lot of people, felt that way, even paying off their houses and not feeling like they didn't have to have insurance. And I think what was happening was, because there wasn't a bank or mortgage company telling you had to have it, and people felt that they didn't need it. But I'm not saying that you necessarily have to have it, but what you do need to understand is that you now become self-insured. That means if anything happens to your property, you're responsible for fixing and repairing it. And you have to ask yourself the question, can I afford that? If your car, when you get to the point where you pay off your car and it's worth, $10,000, then you have to ask yourself, if I lost this car tomorrow, it was totaled, it was my fault, caught on fire, hail, all the things that can happen that is no one else's fault, and you lost that car, could you afford to buy another one? Or, could you afford to fix it? That needs to be the question as to whether you need comp or collision or not. And then in terms of the deductibles, everyone knows if you have a higher deductible, you have a lower premium. But you still got to be able to afford the deductible. So at the same time, as I take people through the deductible conversation, it is, okay, so that money that you're saving, having a lower deductible, higher deductible, I need you to put it in a savings account that's earning interest. So when that thing happens and you need the deductible money, you have it. It's, part of your emergency fund. So those were some gaps in education that I think people didn't have, or just weren't prepared. So yes, just trying to help people bounce back from that, because my heart was breaking, especially for our elderly folks who, anybody who just were not prepared to have another car payment. I mean, there's some people who all 3 of their car, if they had 3 cars, they were all totaled. So, so those were some of the things that I just really wanted to help. I mean, I had clients who were doing okay, but they were telling me I have family members who didn't have insurance, or I have family members who can't, no one's helping them or helping them navigate the situation. So I just wanted to be a part of helping those folks get the needed resources and making sure there are people who like, hey, I hear there are people in need. How can I give money? So I just wanted to be a part of bringing people together to either answer those questions, help people navigate those situations, or getting funding to help them maybe over the hurdle that they may be experiencing.
That was so important. And I think you guys have done a phenomenal job. But if there's someone who still needs to, is there any resources out there or any where they can go to get questions answered or to find out about different resources?
So I know Habitat is still doing some work, and I think they're actually going to do another event because there was some funding that they were able to secure. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has just to help them navigate any particular situation that they're in. So I think between, hopefully they can go to their insurance professional, but if that's not a situation that you have or it's just not working out for you, my team and I are available, and I know that Habitat is doing some things. The city is doing some things. So just, even pointing people to the resources where people can potentially help them. I think there was an organization called Hope that was also involved in trying to provide resources and garner funds to help people. So definitely, I try to stay connected with people so that when people come to us, we can say, this is the information you need and this is a resource that may be there to help you. So I try to stay plugged in so I can help people connect the dots.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much, Ms. Don. Like I said, you have done so many great things, and we just try to stay here another hour and talk about some of the other things, but we appreciate all that you're doing. And if someone, again, wants to connect with you or find out more about what you have going on, how can they go about doing so?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way is to go to my website, justdawnjohnson.com, so I can figure out, what your need is and get you directed to that need. I do have a team of people who are managing email, websites, all the things. So even if you call my office, if you've gone through the website and you're not, getting a response, then you can call my office and someone can direct you to the right person that can help you. But my team has access to my calendar, so whether it's insurance related or community related, they can get everyone in the right direction to get the information that they need.
Awesome. But if you can, I would like for you to leave the people with a nugget of something you may tell yourself. You may inspire yourself with this nugget. That's something that can keep them pushing forward to being the best version of themselves. What would that be?
Absolutely. I mean, just knowing that God intends for us all to prosper. I mean, that's something that I just continuously remind myself of, that even when we find ourselves in a tough situation, that those are, we can make our messages, we can make our trials, our testimonies, our testimonies. So just remembering who's really in control. I mean, that's what I constantly remind myself of. Also, putting yourself in spaces where there are people who are doing what you want to do, so that you can just, even if they don't have the time to necessarily give you all the time that you need. Number one, I think you should always ask, because you never know. Don't be afraid to ask. But also just being in spaces where people are doing the things that you want to do, and you can glean from that. So you don't have to formally be mentored by people to receive guidance from them. Just learning to watch, volunteer for organizations. That's another way where, someone's putting their time in an organization and you're volunteering a part of that organization. You can also learn and develop by being a part of that experience. So that's something that I've always practiced. I have made community service in my community work a part of my training and development. So I feel like I have a PhD in community service, because when I don't understand something, then I find out what organization is doing that work so that I can begin to understand it. So I use nonprofit organizations, commissions, boards, what have you, to help me learn and grow. So those are kind of three things that I think people should really, tap into, that are free. It takes your time and your energy, but if you, willing to take the time to invest in yourself by doing those things, then, some doors will open up for you.
Well, we want to thank you again for
You're
doing
welcome.
so many great things. You dropped the nuggets on, and but just continue doing what you're doing. If we can be of any help and service, please let us know.
Yeah.
And thank y'all for taking the time to check out the podcast. I hope you got something that's going to be beneficial, not only to your life, but to impact your community as well. Until the next time, do like, do subscribe. But in the meantime, be great.